Salvete omnes, and welcome to Caesar's Gallic Wars, Book 4, Section 31. When last we left Caesar, the Britons were taking advantage of his troubles, and now Caesar is going to take steps to deal with the situation with the Britons. Ad Caesar et si nondum eorum concilia cognoerat, tamen et ex eventu navium suarum, et ex eo quad absides dare intermiserant fora id, quad accidit suspicabatur. Okay, we'll start with but Caesar. But Caesar, although he had not yet learned their plans, eorum concilia, the plans of them, or their plans, meaning the plans of the Britons, nevertheless, and then we have to go all the way down to suspicabatur. He suspected. Nevertheless, he suspected, and this is a deponent verb, which is why it's passive. Nevertheless, he suspected from the result of his ships, or from the occurrence of what resulted with his ships, from the result of his ships, and from the fact that they had ceased to give hostages. The fact that they had ceased to give hostages, he suspected that that which quad accidit, that which was happening, was happening. So basically, he figured out what was happening because he figured out what was happening to his ships, and also the fact that the Britons stopped giving hostages. And so, ad omnes casus subsidia comparabatur. And so he prepared all subsidia, all help or safeguards, and so he prepared safeguards for omnes casus, for all situations or all emergencies. Nam et frumentum ex agris cotidie in castra conferebatur, et quae gravissime ad flictae erant naves, earum materia atque aere ad reliquas reficiendas utebatur, et quae ad eas erant usui ex continenti comportari ubebat. Okay, so we'll go back here. And so he prepared safeguards for all situations. For, and remember they like to use the word for at the beginning of sentences, for he gathered grain, conferebat fermenta, this is just a form of pharaoh. He gathered grain, ex agris, we know that one from Latin 1, ecce romani, from the fields, every day, and he gathered the grain into the camp, or he brought the grain into the camp. And he utebatur, going to go all the way down here to utebatur, and he used the timber materia and the bronze ad reliquas reficiendas. Here we have a gerundive, ad plus the accusative plus the gerundive. And he used the timber and the bronze from the ships, the timber and the bronze from the ships, which had been very gravely afflicted or damaged. And he used it for reliquas reficiendas, for rebuilding the rest. Okay, let's go back to that for a minute. And he used, remember that verb use, utor uti usa sum, which is a deponent verb, and it takes an ablative. So whatever you're going to use will be in the ablative case. He used the materia. Materia here in this case means material, but in this context, it means the timber. So he used the timber and the bronze of those ships which had been afflicted the most gravely, or which had been damaged the most gravely, and he used it for rebuilding the rest. So this is odd, meaning to rebuild the rest. And he ordered, got to go all the way down here to ubebat, and he ordered those things which were useful ad eas res for these matters to be comportaried. Again, it's just a compound of porto, which means to carry, passive infinitive, to be carried or to be brought from the mainland. And he ordered ubebat the things which were useful for these matters. Remember, race just means matter, situation, thing. Those things which were useful for this situation, these situations, to be carried from the mainland. Eubebat, just a regular verb here, meaning to order, and usually order is a verb that takes an infinitive, and here we just have a regular infinitive completing the meaning of eubebat, and that is in the passive. Remember, the passive infinitive ends in I. So just a quick reminder, let's just review quickly. Caesar was concerned because of what was happening to his ships and because they had stopped giving hostages, so he suspected that something was happening with the Britons, which he was correct about. He gathered the things that he needed. First he gathered grain, and then he gathered the materials to repair his ships. And then he gets everything else that he needs from the mainland. I think we have one more sentence here. And so, cum sumo studio amelitibus administraretur, XII navibus amicis, reliquis ut navigari satis commode posse effecit. And so we end our passage here with, and so, with the utmost zeal, it was managed by the soldiers. Although with the ships having been lost, with 12 ships having been lost, he brought it about, he effected that the rest could be well enough sailed, could be sailed well enough. And so with the greatest zeal, ablative of manner, it was administered by the soldiers. And although with 12 ships having been lost, he, meaning Caesar, brought it about that the remaining ones were able, posset, to be sailed, navigari, satis commoti, well enough. And so Caesar, again, inspiring his men to do what needed to be done, gets them all ready to deal with the situation with the Britons. Thanks for listening. Walete.